Okay, we are going to go ahead and start. Welcome, parents and families joining us as you anticipate your students starting this upcoming year. My name is Kabir Mohammed, and I'm the Program Director for Student Engagement for International Student and Scholar Services. This forum is sponsored by the International Student and Scholar Services, as well as the Office of Orientation and Transition Experience, with support from the Admissions Office and Parent and Family Program. Just a little disclaimer that this forum is only applicable for University of Minnesota students. So a little overview of the forum. We'll start with a welcome from our Assistant Dean and Director, our Parent Family Program staff, Admissions, and Office of Orientation and Transition Experience. We'll have a Q&A at the end, we also we'll have 30 minutes of information as well as 30 minutes of Q&A. We also want you to know that we have a series of virtual forums planned throughout the month of May. There are 3 student virtual forums planned, which please encourage your student to attend those, and they will have received a link to register for those. So without further ado, I am going to introduce our Assistant Dean and Director, Dr. Barbara Kpler of International Student and Scholar Services.
Greetings, everyone. Welcome to this session for parents and family members of new University of Minnesota students. Thank you each and every one for joining us. Our department, International Student and Scholar Services, is the department on campus that works with all incoming international students. Our role is to provide advising to students who have a visa to study in the U.S. and to provide academic and personal counseling, as well as programs for students to engage across the campus. ISSS is here to support students. Today, I'm delighted that ISSS is joined by staff from several other departments who are here to also share up-to-date information. We designed today's session to address common questions, and we look forward to providing information to you, as you are a really important part in your students' experience. We do understand that right now you face enormous uncertainty about a variety of important questions, including whether the university will be online or in person this fall semester. We want to make clear that we too want to answer those questions as soon as we can. University of Minnesota President Gabel has shared that a decision will be made in June based on thorough consideration of the options and placing priority on student safety. The key for our university is preparedness, and we are diligently working so that we can implement a robust plan no matter the outcome. Our goal is to ensure that you remained informed throughout this process and to help keep you connected to the university community. Minnesotans tend to be humble. Not all of us, but many of us. But I'm really proud of the leadership by University of Minnesota President Gabel and our Governor Tim Walz. They have been incredibly proactive in their approach to the virus and for caring for our students. Our residence halls remain open. Students can access food through the dining service, and free food is provided to students in need. Additionally, our healthcare services are operational and they are seeing patients. There has been no interruption to student services as we work remotely. U of M staff are working virtually to support all students. As a parent to a future University of Minnesota student, you can be proud of the way our university has merged its talents and resourcefulness regarding COVID-19. Our world-class research institution is implementing high-impact solutions to track, defend against, and treat COVID-19 patients. The history and spirit of innovation has led to University of Minnesota alumni and faculty winning 26 Nobel Prizes, develop in-flight tracking, performing the first successful open heart surgery, and making advances to improve our daily lives, like the retractable seatbelt. Your son or daughter can be proud to join our highly ranked research institution that promotes such opportunities to all students. We have a fantastic team in ISSS and great partners across campus. Next, I'd like to introduce Megan Miller-Toole, who is here with us from the University of Minnesota Parent Program.
Thank you, Barbara. As Barbara noted a few minutes ago, the family members of our students are an important part of the support structure available to help them be successful. We truly view family members as partners. Because we value that partnership, it's important to us to provide families with helpful contextual information and resources. The Parent and Family Program email updates are typically sent about every other week and provide information about campus activities, highlighted campus offices, and how and when to use those offices, as well as possible upcoming stressors for students. We'll send those starting mid-summer. We are also available to help when you are trying to coach your student as they are working to figure out how to solve a problem. Remember that your student will be receiving a great deal of messaging from the university. That is both truly wonderful and can also be a little bit overwhelming. For almost any challenge they are experiencing, there is probably a campus resource to help. Some of the key resources include all of the wonderful support that ISSS offers. The Undergrad Update is an email that comes out every other week and highlights many resources. I'd also like to highlight a website, success.umn.edu, and the immense academic support resources posted there. Those are great starting points. We also want to emphasize the importance of asking questions and alerting someone when there is a challenge. The University of Minnesota's staff and faculty view questions positively. While we try to anticipate needs and communicate with those in mind, we rely on students to share concerns or frustrations in order to be able to address them. Please encourage your student to ask questions and follow up. When they are stressed, we ask you to take some deep breaths, encourage them to do the same, and make it your goal to always try to help them de-escalate as opposed to joining them in their frustrations. It's important to know that the Parent and Family Program is not an emergency resource, although we do try to respond quickly, and that we help families to help coach their student, to advocate for themselves and solve problems, while also respecting student privacy and allowing them the opportunity to make their own choices. We look forward to working with you throughout the time your student is at the University of Minnesota as partners. At this time, I'd like to introduce Amy from the Office of Admissions.
Thank you, Megan. I am really glad to have the chance to talk with you all today. My role is to work with families and students before they enroll at the University of Minnesota. And it has been a pleasure to have been working with you and your students as you make this important decision. We know that your student will make a wonderful addition to our community, and you should be really proud of your student. Based on past meetings that we have had with parents, we've come across some common questions we've heard around budgeting, health insurance, and housing. So I'll do my best to address those today. In terms of budgeting, it's really important that you know that the tuition rate will be the same as it was last year. In April, the University of Minnesota Board of Regents voted to keep it the same for the upcoming year. And this tuition rate is fixed for 13 credits and higher. This will help your family plan for the annual expenses because the cost will be the same if your student takes between 13 credits or 20 credits per semester, or any amount in between. And just for reference, one class is usually 4 credits. You need to keep in mind that the billing will be in your student's name. So you need to ask your student for access to the account if you'll be making payments on your student's behalf. Payment plans are available. The standard way to pay the full amount at the beginning of the semester. However, payment plans can break the semester down into smaller bills, 3 smaller bills. This process is outlined on the One Stop website, and there is a $20 per semester fee to have the payment plan. Health insurance is mandatory for all international students in the United States because healthcare costs are very high. The university policy covers the student for a full 12 months and is automatically added to the student's bill. For details on the policy, you can find more information on our Office of Student Benefits website. Then housing. If your student can arrive in time for fall, we do encourage him or her to live on campus because studies have shown that they are more engaged in campus life. However, we don't require that students live on campus. The housing deadline has been extended to June 1st, so the sooner the application is received, the better chance your student has to get the space that he or she prefers. And there are resources for students who want to live off campus on the Housing and Residence Life website, as well as services through the University of Minnesota Legal Services, and their staff can help you understand the legal aspects of a lease. Now I will turn it over to Jenny Mealy from our Office of Admissions to cover the additional points.
Thank you, Amy. And I want to, I share in the pleasure of working with you and your students. And I'd like to echo Amy's comments about we are definitely looking forward to seeing your students soon. So we understand that this year in particular, students may have a delay in receiving some of their final educational documents. The Office of Admissions will work with students on an individual basis if there are any questions about what final documents are needed and what the due dates will be. We do send email communications to students requesting documents that are specific to their curriculum. For example, a student completing the International Baccalaureate Diploma will receive a communication specific to that about sending their final transcripts and their IB results. Whereas a student completing a national curriculum will receive a different email that is specific to that curriculum. We also have a web page on the Office of Admissions website that lists common curriculums and shows sample documents that we expect to receive. Again, students should contact admissions with any questions that we have, and that information is always included in the emails. And then to talk a little bit about exams and final grades. The University of Minnesota has reviewed, and we respect the expertise of the testing boards, schools, and educational institutions to make alternative assessment plans due to COVID-19 for students finishing their schooling in 2020. We will continue to grant transfer credit for IB and A-level work according to our current award schedules. And those award schedules are also posted on the Office of Admissions Transfer Credit website. I will also be available for any questions at the end of this session, but next I would like to introduce Ms. Lisa Gruska, Director of Orientation Programs at the University of Minnesota.
Lisa, you're muted.
Sorry, everyone. Hello, welcome, everyone. You'd think I would remember to take that mute off. I'm excited to welcome your students to the university over the summer with our what we are calling remote orientation program. Of course, we would love to have your students on campus this summer for orientation, but we are excited about the opportunity actually to have this remote orientation because it is going to allow the international students to enroll in their courses in June or July instead of waiting in August, which is going to provide them more choices in course access. And so we're very excited about this opportunity for your student. Your students receive some information about orientation, and that information may not be accurate anymore. And so I wanted to review what the orientation requirements will be for the summer for your student. There will have two major components. The first will be an online orientation, which will be done through our learning module system called Canvas. And this will be available for first-year students on May 26th and for our transfer students on June 15th. And your students will receive an email with instructions on how to access this Canvas module. It's probably going to take about 2 hours for them online to complete this module, and there will be some quizzes attached to them, and passing the quiz is what will allow the student then to attend their scheduled orientation date. When students are getting ready to come to orientation, they have been working on completing their new student checklist, and their new student checklist is where your student has scheduled their orientation date. If your student has not started their new student checklist, which there are several families where this is the case, I would strongly encourage them to do so that they can secure an earliest orientation date as possible. On the scheduled orientation date, we will be hosting those sessions via Zoom like we are in right now, and they will have the opportunity to meet with an upperclassman student, what we call as an orientation leader, and they will be in a small group based on their college of enrollment, so they'll get the opportunity to meet other students from their college. In addition, they will also meet with their academic advisor, and this is when they will register for their fall semester classes. So it's really important that we get them scheduled for that as soon as possible. Now, there will be an opportunity for families to engage with our parent orientation program as well. We will be sending all families an invitation to participate during the week that their student has orientation, and we will be posting a series of presentations throughout the week that families can engage with. But we will also post all of those presentations on our website so that you can access them at any time. If you have any more questions about the orientation program, I'll be happy to answer those at the end. I'm going to turn it back over to Kabir for our next section.
All right, well, thank you, everyone. So now we are going to start the question and answer period. I just want to let everyone know that this session will be recorded and posted on the International Student and Scholar Services new student website. So just a couple of instructions on the Q&A. We have received some questions via the registration system, but you also have the option to ask questions. And here are the two ways you can use the Zoom functions. There is a chat function that we'd love for you to use to ask your questions. And there is also a Q&A function that you can use if you want your question to be anonymous. A little bit of additional instruction is that if you have very specific questions, know that we will not be able to answer those during this forum. So please reach out to International Student and Scholar Services at the ISSS new@umn.edu email address, and we will make sure the right person is able to answer the question. I am also now joined by my colleague, Teresa Gangal Hassam Louis, who is also going to help me with the question and answer. I will read the question and ask the panelists to answer. So we'll start with the first question to Barbara. What are the university's plans if students are not able to arrive on time to start fall semester?
Thank you for bringing out that question. I know this is such an important question and obviously on everyone's mind. We are looking for the information to be presented from our president, President Gable, and we have had really clear communications from the president that thorough options are being reviewed and that a decision will be announced in June. So at this time, we are looking to that decision in order to understand what would be the options going forward after that. We at ISSS and here at the University of Minnesota understand the importance of this question, and we are going to be communicating and working with you on all options once we know what the university's plans are. We appreciate your patience as we work to make the best decision possible.
So a follow-up question. It's an immigration-related question. If I cannot arrive on campus for fall 2020, will it affect my F status? Will I need a new visa or I-20 when arriving on campus in a future semester? And this is for Tom.
Thank you so much for joining us today. For a new student, if you can't arrive for the fall semester, that I-20 can be deferred. And so we would print out a new one and send you a new I-20. However, then your visa that you would have gotten if you had already received it would be still valid, so you could still use that same visa. And the SEVIS fee that you paid would also continue to be good. Of course, every situation may vary a little bit, so you can be in contact with International Student and Scholar Services to deal with your particular situation.
Okay. Another question for Tom. If I decide to take a gap year from fall 2020 to fall 2021, will it affect my international student status?
Well, again, a little bit similar to the previous question. You would need to have a new I-20 in that case with reflecting a new start date. And it would also depend if you had already gotten your visa appointment and gotten the visa, or if you had not received the visa. So in that situation, I would again say you'll work with the ISSS directly in taking care of the new documents you might need.
All right, well, thank you. I just want to remind again the attendees that you have the chat function to ask your questions, as well as the Q&A function for anonymous questions. So this is a question for Megan. In terms of the role of parents, what can parents or guardians do during this uncertain time to support their student?
Thanks, Kabir. I think that is a really great question. And I think you've been supporting them through many choices and many processes for a long time. You know how they behave when they're feeling confident, and you know how they behave when they're feeling stressed out. And so continue to watch for those indicators. I think one of the best things you can do is to help and encourage them to think critically about the concerns they have and the questions that they have. Give them some space to ask those questions, both of you as family members, as well as of the resources that are available on campus. In advance of even asking those questions, help them think through what kinds of questions they want to ask, how to ask them, and provide some space for them to think through the answers that they are receiving. There aren't always clear 100% right, 100% wrong answers to questions. They are oftentimes nuanced and have a number of different possible outcomes. So helping them think through those responses and what they want and what they mean to them. The other piece is that sometimes when students are concerned or stressed out or unsure and they're navigating so many unknowns, it's hard for them to remember that there are resources available to ask those questions of. And as your student participates in orientation this summer, they will meet orientation leaders, they will meet their academic advisor, they will meet wonderful faces and people who are ready to help them. As they log off of those experiences, they may forget that those individuals exist. Remind them that those resources continue to be there, even when they are not front and center on their screen every single day. So remind them that there is support. And I think for you as family, this is a hard place to be too. And so give yourself some space to have the feelings that you're having. And, you know, as a family, sort through those as you have found effective in the past, and use each other as part of your support structure. And that in and of itself will help your student to process through their next steps.
Well, thank you, Megan. This is an admissions question. Jenny, if you can help answer this. If my child cannot attend this fall, can they defer their admissions to spring 2021 or fall 2021?
I'm sure that a lot of families right now are weighing their options for what they want to do and what they feel comfortable doing with their students. The University of Minnesota does offer the option to take what is commonly referred to as a gap year for a new freshman. We have a webpage with extensive information about gap year and an easy form to submit with a very brief statement about why a student may want to take a gap year. I do want to point out that the University of Minnesota admits new freshmen to start fall terms only, so in September. If your student is thinking about a gap year and wants to apply for that, they would be starting with us 1 year. It would be September of 2021 or August, actually, when you would arrive on campus. I'd be happy to share that link out so we can have it available for families if they're interested in learning more about gap year requests.
And this next question is for Tom. If a student has paid the SEVIS fee and can't get their visa appointment, will they lose that $350?
No, I think I mentioned a little bit about that previously, and that SEVIS fee can be moved to a future semester, or even if your I-20 that you initially had received, you ended up getting a second I-20, it can be moved to that I-20. So no, you shouldn't lose it as long as it is less than 12 months.
Thank you. This is another question for Barbara. And I think you've probably answered this, but there is another question about where will the classes be online during fall semester?
Thank you, Kabir, and thank you to those posing that question. We do understand how important that question is. We will look for the information from President Gabel and our administration to guide us on what the options will be this fall, including whether that would be in person or online. So we're looking for that information and update in June.
This
Okay.
next question, Tom, is if I study online from home for fall 2020, would I be eligible for CPT starting summer 2021?
As the current regulations are, no, you would not, because you have to complete an academic year in your F1 status. So if you were learning online during the fall semester, you wouldn't be in F1 status during that period of time. So you would have to study an additional semester to be eligible for CPT, which is a curricular practical training. Thank you.
All right. This is a question for Lisa Grushka. What is the latest date that I can arrive at the University of Minnesota and still attend for fall 2020?
Our goal is that our goal would be to have families arrive by August 26th so that the student can have some time to settle in and participate in our Welcome Week program that begins this year on September 2nd. And then also that would give you time to take care of any university business that needed to be taken care of in between there. I know that there is going to be flexibility this year in allowing students to arrive into that first week. And I think the latest a student would need to arrive in order to be here for fall is going to be around the 9th of September at the very latest.
Thank you.
Tom, another individual is talking about having difficulty scheduling their visa appointment and wonder what they can do.
Yeah, we understand that this is a difficult time as you try and make those arrangements with most U.S. embassies and consulates being closed. Our suggestion is to check frequently at the website of the embassy in your country and see when they start opening up appointments so you can get one as soon as possible. Also, if you're in a country that has multiple U.S. consulates, check with them to see if you can go to another consulate within the country, not the one that is geographically closest to your home. That may be another way of getting in a little bit earlier. But at this point in time, it's just going to be that you have to check frequently to get those appointments when they open up.
All right, thank you. Lisa, this is a health insurance related question. If I'm an entering student with health insurance covered through my parents, am I still required to purchase the University of Minnesota health insurance plan?
I believe the answer to that is yes, you're still required to purchase it. And Ryan, I see your question here, and I'm going to send you to the health benefits website here in just 1 second.
Okay, thank you.
And Tom, does the President's executive order have any impact on students getting visas if they're interested in getting a visa for fall 2020?
This is not impacting F1 students at this point in time. So as soon as those embassies open up, please get your appointment booked so you can join us in the fall, as that's what we're planning for.
All right, thank you. Barbara, do you have any thoughts, any additional comments to make?
I appreciate the question and Tom's reaction and clear explanation that this travel ban does not impact individuals on non-immigrant visas, including international students and scholars. Thank you.
Thank you. This is an admissions question. Jenny, if my student has received a scholarship, will they be able to keep it if they defer their admission?
That is an important question that you want an answer to. If a student was awarded a scholarship as a new incoming student, freshman or transfer, and they only freshmen can put that request to defer for a year, that gap year. they will retain that scholarship when they come the next year. I do just want to mention something about a gap year request. Gap year requests are when you have, you know, you're taking a little break for some reason, but you're not attending another university or college. If you are deciding that maybe your best plan for the fall would be to start at a different college or university somewhere else and then come to the University of Minnesota, we'll need to work with you to update your application at that time to reapply as a transfer student. In that case, we may or may not be able to confirm the scholarship that you have. But if you're coming in as a new freshman, you've taken a year off to work on volunteer work or do military service or something like that, and you start as a freshman when you come, you will retain your scholarship. Thank you.
Kabir, I'm going to have you take the next question.
Sure. This is a question for ISSS, probably Barbara. Are international students allowed to take loans to meet the costs of their education? How does the university help us in this regard?
Thank you, Kabir. And I am happy to start a response. And if others would like to add, would invite perhaps Amy, if you have additional information to support my response. For international students and loans, it is typically an arrangement that is made within the student's home country, that the federal aid offered at the University of Minnesota does not extend to international students. And so our support comes through scholarship offerings, both from the institution as well as private foundation funds that are donated to support international students in their education. So those would come as awards to new students. Thank you.
And I do have one point to add, actually, that through the Minnesota Office of Higher Education, there is a loan program that is open to all students who are enrolled in any institution of higher education in the state. It's called the self-loan program. The caveat or the disclaimer is that in order to receive funds from this loan program, the student does need to have a U.S. citizen or permanent resident as a co-signer on the loan. So that U.S. based person would be basically saying if the student is unable to repay the loan, that he or she would take on the responsibility for the repayment. So I know that's not an option for everybody, but if you do have a relative who is creditworthy, who happens to be a citizen or a permanent resident, then I would encourage you to check that out. It's called Self-Loan, S-E-L-F, through the Minnesota Office of Higher Education.
Tom, along with this question about gap year is a question about when they should be applying for their visa. So if a student's going to take a gap year, should they be waiting to apply for their visa, or should they be trying to get their visa now?
If they have made a decision to take the gap year, then that the I-20 that they have now gotten with a September 2020 start date, you wouldn't really want to apply for the visa now. You would want to then get the new I-20 sometime next spring and use that to get the visa, because you couldn't enter the country anyway on that visa or that I-20 if you're not going to study. So it is best to wait.
All right. Thank you. This is a question we'll start with Barbara and see whether others can jump in as well. This is in regards to purchasing airline tickets to arrive on time, but wondering if there are quarantine requirements in the US that could delay the start of the requirements to be quarantined at the US. So how should a student plan their travel?
Thank you, Kabir. Right now, we have so many unknowns and appreciate just the challenge of trying to make concrete plans in this ambiguous time. And there are current details. So in the context of today in the United States, there is not a mandatory quarantine for travelers. And I don't know if others want to add to that about recommendations for arriving, if they have any additional information to offer, or if just at this point in time, we do not have any quarantine plans upon arrival.
I would just add that an F1 student is allowed to arrive up to 30 days prior to the report date listed on their I-20. So if a person on their own wanted to do that, you could arrive up to 30 days prior to the date on your I-20.
Right, thank you. Teresa, are there any additional immigration questions that we missed?
There's a question about a change of status, but that really will get into too much detail. We need to know the specifics about that individual situation. So I'm going to recommend that they contact ISSS individually, and we'll address that question that way.
Okay. Jenny, this you may be able to answer a housing question. If the housing deadline is June 1st, can are students able to defer the May 15th deadline and pay for their registration by June 1st?
I think that's a very good question, and I'm sorry I don't actually know the answer. Amy, do you know the answer to that? Yeah, the June 1st date is really, as we know, for applying for housing. The May 15th is usually the guarantee that you have to submit that you are confirming your housing. I will check the housing website to see if there is more information there real quick.
Jenny, if I can jump in here, the guaranteed deadline is now June 8th, which I answered in the Q&A. June 8th is the deadline.
Awesome, thank you, Lisa.
Okay. All right, there is one more question that I'll see if Lisa can answer. There is a student who will arrive on the 26th of August, and when should their family leave after leaving the student? When should the family depart?
The family can, the family's welcome to stay and explore the Minnesota area, the Twin Cities area and the surrounding areas. You're welcome to stay. I would say that the student will be pretty much unavailable to you starting on the 2nd. They'll be busy with their Welcome Week activities, especially if we are in person for all those events. And so you're welcome to stay as long as you'd like, but your student won't be as available to you starting on the 2nd of September.
Okay, thank you. Teresa, I think we have answered all of the questions unless, oh, there is still one that came in. And this could be a question for Barbara. If classes are held online, then how will lab courses be taken care of?
For lab courses, I think there are a variety of options being pursued, and not all of those options and what the outcomes will be are known at this time. I believe that some lab courses are determined that they are able to be offered online, just as had happened this spring. And others, the departments will look to what arrangements can be made in adjusting the sequence of the course. So to answer your question, much is not fully known about the exact offerings of those lab courses, but understood the difficulty of transferring that lab class into an online. Some have been able to do so given the requirements of the lab, and others will be have a shift in what the scheduling of those classes will be in the future.
There's another question here. Jenny, if somebody changes their major, what's the procedure for that? Is it changed during the first year or after the first year?
Right. So one of the nice things about the U.S. educational system is it is a bit more flexible than other places in the world. But I would say that if a student right now knows that they really do want to change their major for sure, they should contact the Office of Admissions, and we will work with the student on the process of doing that before they come. We would really like students to be in the college that they want to be in and the major they want to be in when they start. However, if you are in your first year and you have discovered a new major that you think is fascinating and you would love to change, there are resources on campus, and your academic advisor will definitely help you in the process of changing your major while you are enrolled at the university. But again, if you are interested, if your student is interested in changing right now before the start of school, they should contact us.
All right, thank you. This is a question for Megan. There is a student asking, where should my family stay if we arrive on August 26th?
Great question. There are a number of wonderful hotels right near the University of Minnesota. One that is essentially nestled on campus is called the Graduate, and that would be a great place to be. There are also quite a few others, the Doubletree, Courtyard Marriott, there's quite a few. The Office of Admissions has a wonderful list of hotels on their website, and typically Orientation and Transition Experiences has quite a few on their website as well to encourage families to utilize some of those resources and enjoy the Twin Cities, enjoy the campus, and have a little bit of space to yourself as well.
All right, well, thank you. I think we are, I believe we've answered all of the questions that have come through. Teresa, any missing questions?
I didn't see any, Kabir.
All right. Okay. Again, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm going to ask Barbara to do our closing. And just a couple of things. This session will be posted on our new website, our new student website, and we'll send that to you. We'll also send a quick communication to outline all of the contact informations, but feel free to contact us if you need specific questions answered. So thank you. Barbara, you can.
On behalf of all of us on today's webinar, thank you so much for joining us. I also want to thank all of the panelists for their expertise and for their willingness to be here this morning. It's morning our time to be with you during this session. We appreciate your expertise. I want to mention that I share something in common with all of you, which is I also have a student here at the University of Minnesota. So I look forward to joining you all as proud University of Minnesota parents. I ask at this time that you encourage your student to stay connected with admissions, orientation and transition experiences, and ISSS. We strive to provide timely information, and of course that's critical right now that we're all checking in with one another as information is changing during this pandemic. We will continue to offer full service to students while we are working remotely. We're here for you. The first way your student can stay connected is by attending the University of Minnesota 3 upcoming international student-specific virtual forums. Each session will take place 2 times starting Tuesday, May 19th through Thursday, June 5th. Your student has received communication via the University of Minnesota email to register for these sessions. On behalf of all of us at the University of Minnesota, I want to say congratulations on your students' acceptance to the university. We look forward to seeing you soon. We appreciate your trust in the University of Minnesota. Your student is a valuable part of our community here at the University of Minnesota. We look forward to seeing you as soon as possible and to staying connected with you. Thank you.
Thank you.